rise if you can, and we'll face the flag for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The school board will convene to close executive session tonight to consider the employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of an employment or which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility under Wisconsin Statute 19.85, Trend 1, Trend C, considering a bus driver and a part-time special education aide. At this time, former board member Jay Zahn passed away a couple of weeks ago, so we'll take a moment to recognize him. And I think Mr. Lipke has something prepared.
Yeah, Jay Zahn passed away on August 28th. He served on the Sevastopol School Board for 9 years. While he was on the board, Jay held the office of treasurer. Additionally, he was an alumnus of Sevastopol. He graduated the class of 1975 and was their class valedictorian. And he's just a wonderful, gracious man and loves serving his community. He'd be greatly missed.
There's a wonderful tribute to Jay on the Door County Historical Society website. If anyone wants to check that out, really recognizing the wonderful contributions he made, not only to the school district, but to the total community.
I'm done. Anything else, Jay? Okay, Jeff, hi, this is Lisa Beery at the Sevastopol School District. I just got notice of this today, so wanted to patch Jeff in here so he could make this announcement for us. He's Jeff, I'm not sure how to say your name exactly. What the, okay, he's with the Wisconsin Rural Schools Association as the executive director, and he's going to make this announcement for us.
Are you there?
We're here. We're here. Are you there?
Yes, I am. Can everybody hear me?
As well as we're going to.
Oh, good one.
I'll get it on speaker. As close as I can. My name is Jeff Whitey. I'm the Wisconsin Rural Alliance Executive Director. I've been in school for a year and a half, well, going into the second year. And every year we have the opportunity at our work conference and to nominate members of individuals for recognition. And real simply, we have, teacher of the year, teacher employee of the year, principal of the year, board member of the year, community partner of the year, rural advocacy person of the year, and this year, if I say it correctly, Lisa Beery and Joanne O'Doy have nominated Kyle Lipke for Superintendent or District Administrator of the Year. We had great candidates. However, Kyle is the winner of the Wisconsin Rural Schools Alliance Administrator of the Year.
Whoa.
Kyle there?
Yes, I'm right here. Thank you, Jeff.
You are absolutely welcome. Hey, Kyle, just so I don't mess up when we ask you, is there, how do you say your last name, if I'm saying correctly?
I say lid key like the lid on a can, key to a door.
I had it right. I don't know when I think I had it right. That's awesome. Okay, congratulations, Kyle. Congratulations to the school board and to the school district. It's exciting, and I'm looking forward to having one of the board members on the board present that to you and whoever comes that's the board comes.
Well, thank you, Jeff. It's an honor.
Thanks for calling. Thanks for taking our call tonight.
Oh, my pleasure. I have a great board meeting.
Thank you. Goodbye. Doyle is from the Mineral Point School District. She never actually worked with Mr. Lipke, but she was aware of him from his work in the southern part of the school, and she was the driving force behind the nomination. Wrote a really nice piece on his contributions to rural education, both in his other school districts and here. So,
Congratulations. That's why all this
That was it, that worked out.
Right, okay. So congratulations.
Thank you. Nice job.
Then we have a presentation time from the FFA.
Yeah, Dale Carlson with one student, two students.
Yep, I have one student here.
Okay.
This is Emily Bly. She is our reporter for our FFA chapter. You can go up there if you want and click, and then I can, don't have to turn around when I say hit the button. I'm not sure what we were really supposed to be coming down here for, but a little background on our FFA chapter. Last year we were 42 members strong. That was up 12 members from the previous year. We had dropped down to our lowest numbers 2 years ago. So we were proud of that, and as a result we got what was called the Pride Award at the State FFA Convention. Any chapter that increases their membership by 10 or more can get that Pride Award. So we started with that. Our chapter this year, we're hoping, we lost 5 FFA members last year from graduation, and we lost another 3 that were graduates that had completed their last term as far as being able to be a member at 20 and 21. So we are looking at approximately 30 kids that we hope will join from the same as last year. 8th grade classes are true. We have to get those involved, because if we don't get the 8th graders, we lose the membership going back up each year. So that's our goal this year, is to try and get some more members. We've already got 3 8th graders that have joined in less than 3 weeks. So we're hoping to get up, our goal is to get up to 50, because that will give us another Pride Award 2 in a row. So that's what we're hoping for. Our chapter is involved when we sit down with the officers every summer. My summer contract requires me to be with students as we do things in here. And one of the things that we do is heavily try to do leadership activities for the kids. We have officer training. They spend 3 days with me. We set up all the things that we are going to do for the whole year. And they are instrumental in deciding what we're going to do and what we aren't. We handed you out a little activity sheet that we do. We like to divide everything into 4 different categories. First one being probably one of the most important would be the leadership activities. Our goal, if you see the parentheses, that's the number that are in each of those. So that's what we try to do, is we try and keep it as balanced as possible. Now, obviously, fun has to have a little more than just the balance, so we try and do at least 1 or 2 fun activities each month. That's besides the FFA meetings that we have on the second Monday of every month. And it's also one of the things that we try to do to encourage our 8th graders to participate in something. This last month, our activity was cornhole toss. And we had that down by the ag room, and it had 4 boards going with kids playing cornhole for 2 rounds. So that's exciting. Packer tailgate, if you look up on the board up there, we go over to one of the students' houses, Kylie Dusler, and her family put us up, and we do a Packer tailgate, door prizes, food, and as you can see, they find other extracurricular wherever it's needed, including basketball, and outside I think they played football for a while, so we do the recreational activities as well. We try to have some fun. The leadership part of it, we try to get to the national convention, the state convention, and any other workshops or leadership activities that we do at the state and at the regional level. We are going on Monday and taking 7 students down to Seymour. That is our fall leadership conference. So if you see the letters FCL, fall leadership conference, FLC. I don't get those spelling things. And so the kids are going down there. We will be divided into groups where they will be going to workshops on leadership, as well as SAE, which is part of our program, raising animals and raising something to do with agriculture. The other one that we do is the fundraising. We do the fundraising for food sales, the concession stand, and of course the dairy breakfast, which goes back to the alumni, and then they reallocate it. What do they do that with? What is the dairy breakfast, what does that pay for our chapter? Remember the three things? Sorry to put you on the spot, but I didn't want you to fall asleep.
It pays for traveling fees for our national convention and our other conventions, our leadership conferences, and
If individuals want to pursue some special conference, like Washington DC Leadership Conference, that one you only send 1 or 2 students because the cost is about $1,700. Last time that we had somebody go down, we had 2 kids go down. They paid for everything but meals. They paid for registration, transportation, and the alumni gave them that opportunity. Some of you probably remember Maya Plur. She's been in the national band twice. She was one of the few people that when she was sitting in the front row, first chair, first pew, or first position for flute, President Obama came in and picked her out and shook her hands in front of the TV cameras. So, and that was on RFD if you were watching that during the national convention. So that was pretty cool. And the last one that we also do of fundraisers leadership.
scholarships. And also offer scholarships.
I didn't hear.
Scholarships?
Scholarships.
Offer scholarships.
Yep, you were right. So the scholarships pays for all of that too. Okay. Do you guys have any questions on any of the things that we have in front? We try to do all of them. We don't do all of them per se. We try and rotate a couple of them. But for the most part, that's the activities that we do throughout the whole year. We are a group that does not end at the last day of school. In fact, with some of our kids, it's the busiest time of the year is the summertime. You guys have any other questions?
What is the gender balance now?
Sorry, Mr. Leakey. He made my challenge a couple years ago. I need more boys. We have 9 boys and we have the rest all girls. And it's just, we can't compete against the sports. And that's one of the things that we do have to work around is volleyball, football. The boys are out for football and basketball, and it's tough to get them to come in after practices. I mean, they go home to chow down, and we don't have that opportunity. I give them snacks for the meeting, but
Well, it's interesting because 50 years ago, girls weren't allowed to do that.
correct. 1969 was the last time.
That's
Well, when they
switched over the last 50 years.
That was pretty good. You must have been listening to Eddie Allen.
I was born in 69, so I know.
Any other questions?
But, I realize that, retirement is on the horizon for you.
Is there?
And I want to personally thank you for everything you've done
Thank
for the FFA, keeping the ag program vibrant and diversified and alive,
And finally up and running in the greenhouse?
But I think, your accomplishments, Dale, are well noted.
Thank you.
I want to personally thank you for that.
I would second that.
I third that.
Now we're getting a little bit of blubber.
I hope you train your successor to learn to teach boys how to tie a necktie. Boys and girls to tie a necktie and escort someone.
Thank you. Well, it was
Do that in
one
the
of,
8th grade, I think.
yes. One of the reasons that came about was when I was in 9th grade, we were required to walk the Queen candidates across the field for homecoming. And the reason why the FFA kids were chosen was because all the other boys were out playing football. So we, as 9th graders, got to escort all the Queen candidates out there. Nobody had ever taught us how to escort. Nobody ever taught us how to tie the ties. And all of a sudden, we were supposed to do that in front of the whole entire school at homecoming. So I learned that lesson, and I said, our kids are not going to have to do that. And I know that the basketball program really loves it because most of the time when they require the ties, they usually come down to get a refresher course from me before they get to step out on the court.
Good.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you
Dale.
for all your, thank you, Emily.
Did you guys get all the way through the pictures, I hope? Okay. All right.
presentation by our mayor
And I'd like Clark
representative.
and Barry to give a presentation on our finance building project.
Good evening. This is quite a change since the last time I was here. I think some of the earlier projects were being accomplished, the gym floor had been in, I think it was in. But other than that, I haven't seen any of the new construction, so. But what we're here to talk about tonight, and I think it was the last time I was in front of the board, was talking about the concept of over-levying in Fund 39, your debt service fund, and pre-funding debt. And the district has accumulated some funds, and it was time to move the funds into an escrow account to legally pre-fund or meet your legal obligation for those debt payments. So that's what the resolution a little bit later on the agenda will accomplish. Yeah. We have a couple. We've got one extra.
Want me to go make some? Want me to go make some?
If you want, sure.
Sorry, it doesn't work, these numbers don't work very good on projections, so.
So if you need another one, we can.
Here, we're good. What's it on? So just to review, what a defeasance is when a borrowing entity accumulates funds that can only be used for debt payments. Those funds can be moved into an escrow account, and that escrow account becomes legally responsible for making those future payments that are designated in the resolution. And this has become quite a common practice for school districts in Wisconsin. We did a record number over the last 2 years because the state budget money went into aid, lowering taxes, which allowed some districts to levy a little bit more into their debt service or to pay off their debt and accumulate these funds. So, there's easily over 200 districts that do this in various degrees. So, over the last couple of levies, the district has accumulated, $3.4 million. And again, those funds can only be used for debt. And so, in the handout I have at your seats, we're putting those dollars to work, and we are, if you look at the lower left-hand corner, kind of in the middle of the page, you see some colored cells. We're focused on the 2037, 2038, and 2039 principal payments. When we deposit these dollars into the escrow, if you move to the right a little bit, you'll see that the 38 and the 39 payments are gone, and a portion of the 37 payment is gone, because the escrow now becomes legally responsible for making those payments. And they'll make those payments in 2027. That's when the call provision of your bonds becomes available, meaning that they can actually be paid off at that point. Now you're just pre-funding, but in 2027, the escrow agent will pay off those bonds, and then saving all the interest that would have been due on those principal payments between 27 and 37, 38, and 39. And that's where the savings comes in. So if you look down to the lower right-hand corner, by doing this, and again, this is all taxpayer savings, it would reduce the debt service cost by $1.67 million over the life of the debt, which is pretty significant. And the other thing that makes this really good timing is with interest rates a little bit higher, that escrow, because you're limited to government securities, you're earning a significant return in that escrow. For many years, that wasn't the case. Back when you were borrowing and your interest rates were low on the debt, those escrows were paying almost nothing. But you're getting a pretty good return on those dollars within that escrow account. You're lowering your debt threshold or outstanding debt, because this even though the bonds are still out there with your name on them, they are legally no longer your obligation. And it's positive from a credit rating standpoint. Not that you're issuing debt anytime soon, but still it's another benefit for doing that. So if you go to the third column from the left, you'll see a reduction in Fund 39 debt service. You'll see $116,000 savings, because the escrow will pay the interest due on those principal payments we identified. So once this takes place, starting in 2023, 24, the escrow will pay the interest due on those principal payments. So they're not only responsible for the principal, but all the remaining interest due on those. And that creates a savings in the debt service fund of $116,000. And then you'll see a little bit in 37, it goes up a little bit because the principal's gone, and then you'll see the bigger savings amount in 38 and 39. Again, it's a widely used practice. It saves, in the long run, saves taxpayers a significant amount of money. You know, and obviously with the district having, you know, the operating questions in place and going back, you know, it reduces the debt service side of things. At the same time, you may be looking to increase, if that would be the choice, but it's quite often the choice. If that operating would increase a little bit, you have an offset kind of built in to some degree. So that's what the defeasance is. The resolution is drafted by your bond counsel that kind of outlines that a little bit later. It basically just formalizes the movement and approves, identifies the principal payments that you're pre-funding. And again, the numbers I'm showing you are final. I mean, these are the numbers. If you act on it, this is what you're going to get, because we've locked in the government securities at these levels to make this happen. So the resolution just formalizes it. It identifies Associated Bank as the escrow agent. We use them almost exclusively because they do a good job and they have the lowest fees. And they kind of specialize in this for Wisconsin school districts. So the money would move there, and then they would become legally responsible for that debt going forward. So with that, I'll conclude my comments and take any questions if there are any.
Just for information. So why, when I heard we were going to do this, why do we even pay it off? Why don't, this isn't arbitraging, but it's like arbitraging. So why don't we take the payments for those years? Just buy government bonds, which are 6-month bonds are not paying like 5.5%, like all-time high. And it appears that government, the bonds are probably going to go up even more, since it looks like.
Yes, I was on the car a lot today. I heard the radio.
Yeah, it looks like inflation has not gone away, and we're going to see $4 or $5 gas link recent. And so then the feds will attack that by raising interest rates more. So instead of paying it off, why don't you say, if you got this money available, just buy the bonds, and you're going to get more off the interest than your bond is paying, and you're going to end up with a, is that legal? I mean, it is in business, but I don't know if it is in the school world.
No, when the bonds are issued, there's and I think we may have, well, we probably didn't talk about it too much here because it probably wasn't an issue at this time because you weren't earning as much on your money as districts are today. But there are IRS limitations on what you can earn, not only on your bond proceeds in terms of what you can earn on that. There's also a restriction within your debt service fund on how much you can earn. And so we maximized the escrow. It came out to about 3.5% return on average within the escrow account. But there is a limit to how much the IRS allows you, because they allowed you to issue tax exempt debt.
Okay.
And so there's a limitation on what you can earn on those proceeds. I mean, you have a period of time, if you don't spend it, there's a limit on what you can earn. And again, for much of your time period before rates really took off, it was not a huge issue. But there's also a restriction on what you can earn in the debt service funds. So if you earn over that, there's a chance you're going to have to rebate what you just talked about, that amount above that. So the escrow maxed out what you're allowed to earn. Anything you would earn over that technically would have to be rebated to the IRS.
The full one.
Not the full amount, the amount over what you were allowed. In the escrow account.
So if you're allowed to earn
Right.
3%, and you earn 5%, you got to give the IRS the full too? Or is there just a
That's,
penalty there?
well, yeah, right. No, if you would have issued taxable debt, meaning that the interest paid on your debt would have been taxable to whoever bought your debt, then you can earn as much as you want.
I got you.
It's because you issue tax exempt, which is the lower cost of the taxpayer. So, I mean, it's
Lower risk too.
yeah. So yes. So if there are restrictions in terms of how much, and we went, the escrow maxed out what you were allowed to earn, so it's very efficient. But that answers your question.
Kind of. So why would so they have the cash to pay off ahead of time? Instead of paying off your bonds, just invest the cash in.
Right.
Again. We're not using bond money, we're using our own.
No, but it's the same, but
We
it's
collected under Fund 39.
it's a designated
It's trying
fund.
to get 2%.
Right.
Or
Oh,
3%.
yeah, trust me, if,
I'm sure,
There was a way to do it.
no disrespect to me, but I'm sure they,
right, and we talked with bond counsel.
My own education.
And in the, you'll see in here, there's a CPA verification of the numbers as well, for a couple of reasons. One, to make sure we're not exceeding that ARB limit within the escrow account. And the other reason is Associated Bank wants a third party to say, since they have the legal responsibility to pay off this debt plus accumulated interest, they want somebody else other than Baird doing the calculation, saying, yes, we're going to, what you're receiving will be sufficient to meet the obligations you are now legally taking. So,
Any other questions for Mike? Thank you.
okay. Again, resolutions a little bit later on the agenda, but it was nice seeing you again.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
Carol, did we have any guests registered to speak on your guest comments?
Just what they have on agenda items.
Okay. Which are those agenda items that guests want to speak on?
The, Mr. Hayne here is for the
Town Park?
Town Park.
Okay. All right. If no one has anything to remove from the consent agenda, we will have that approved by consent. Okay. Then we'll move to the administrator reports and begin with Mr. Schaefer tonight.
Oh, thank you. I guess my topic that I'm choosing to talk about this week is culture. With it being homecoming week and you had the nice welcoming decorations coming in for the board meeting. But it's just been really an awesome week in a lot of different ways. You know, with the teachers have been working really hard. I mean, every staff member has really kind of played a role. Like, for example, with they have their theme days, they have Pioneer Olympics, which when you're up in the gym and you're seeing the students rooting for their classmates over some of these, you know, little activities that they're doing, and you go and you walk in the hallways with decorations, and we got custodial staff running with ladders to try to hook everybody up and getting ticky-tack tape, and it's been a really great environment. And I think today, as a principal, and that's really believes in the value of what culture can do to a school. Today was Western Day, or whatever you want to call it, but it was Western Day, and it was so awesome when students were coming in the morning and they were greeted by 4 or 5 adults commenting on their outfits and, you know, committing to the dress-up day and the smiles that they have coming in to start their day. It's just been an incredible, good feeling week. It's just awesome to see how I watched today while in the basketball game, a team, they were playing the game, and the guys that lost, the guys that won were hugging the kids, the other team. They were putting their arm around them. I watched today, well, this is so cool. As a coach, who really instilled this in my sports programs, but a senior taking a freshman, putting his arm around him, rubbing his head, and just, you know, you could see that connection and that bond, and that, you know, we are a community, we are a school, and it was just terrific, and it really warmed my heart. And then another thing, as a staff, middle school, high school, we're reading a book right now called Lead with Culture by Jay Billy, who is also a principal himself, and his primary focus is on culture. And we did this awesome book talk with our middle school and high school staff together, and we talked about things like, what's the culture of your classroom like? And each teacher described it, and then they had to share, how do you know that? What do you know that proves that you have that kind of culture? And The book has just been really great. It's an eye-opener. It really makes us take a reflective look here. What are we doing well? Where can we get better? And how can we constantly improve? So a great week of homecoming. We got the tailgate on Friday, the dance on Saturday, and I feel like culture this week is at all-time high. So it's really awesome to be a part of Sevastopol.
Excellent. Mr. Hiltz.
The school year has gotten off to a really good start. Very happy with that. Kind of talking about culture, just to bring a little bit of attention to something in my report was the annual kickoff video that we do. Really shows the kids kind of the camaraderie that exists amongst the staff at the elementary school and the joy that those teachers have in what they do. I think it really kind of sets the tone to start things off. I know it's a 2-minute segment that the kids get to see the first day of school, but it really kind of sets the tone. Something that wasn't in my report that I wanted to make sure I mentioned, the Wisconsin Art Educators Association has started doing a Art Teacher of the Month each month. And they asked for nominations, so I put forward Kara Krieger, and in part because of the Fine Arts Night that she helped to organize and spearheaded. She's just an outstanding educator. She sets high expectations for her kids. She has wonderful lessons for all of them. We got word today that she ended up receiving that honor for the month of October. And it's especially nice for her because the association's conference is next month. So she'll be the person up there for getting recognized. But I think well-deserved, and just wanted to make sure that I mentioned that.
That little video is really great every night. But I like watching it.
It's fun. The kids like it.
So that award for Kara, we'll make sure we get a press release.
We'll work on a press release. I sent something to Stephen already to
Great.
put that on Facebook, and we'll make sure it's on there.
Great. Ms. Margaret.
I just want to take a couple minutes just to let people know, that it's just great to be back at work. And then a little bit about what my fall looks like as the People Services Director. So my priorities really are supporting the teacher teams as kids come back to school for some of the students where it's tricky for them at times, but then also starting the beginning of student support teams. And what student support teams are, teachers will reach out to me and other, a principal and maybe a guidance counselor if there's any kids that they see that are struggling. And what we do is we create that team so we meet early. And we meet periodically, and if that student is responding to the interventions that we're putting in place, that's wonderful. If not, then we go to the next level. So already teachers are being very, very proactive and looking at students in their classroom and being really communicating if they see a need. So it's been nice to be a part of that as well. Other things that are on the radar is community programs, full swing of recruitment. And then also the Parent Cafe. I'm really striving to get more parents through the door on October 3rd. So we're flooding Facebook, we're flooding Class Tag. I'm here on on TV right now. So just a plug for all of our parents to check out the opportunity to come to Sevastopol School for a Parent Cafe. Tiffany Kelsey and Teresa LaPlante make a delicious dinner. And we have Sevastopol students who provide free childcare. So everything is no cost to our families at all. And this month, we're watching the second film of Screenagers, and it's addressing mental health needs through the digital age. So the first one that we had was just about technology use and how to monitor that. And I think it was very well, it was very well responded to that. I think we're going to bring it back again. So more of our families can get a chance to be able to see that. So we're just working hard, to get that word out, and we hope on the 3rd, October 3rd, that there's more families that want to come out and support it. We'd love to have everybody come out.
I think those are a great idea, those sessions, and I think they're open to anybody in the community.
Anyone in the community.
Not just Sevastopol.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We've had it on, WDOR, we have it in our newsletters that are going out too, but for the next week and a half, we're going to get that constant word out. So, yeah.
And our staff watched them before the Parent Cafe, and 12% of our student body has a parent working in the building, so we are getting a segment of operation that way automatically.
Yeah, and our staff at in-service will watch this film on the 25th, so they'll know as well. So,
Great
hoping for
idea.
a big turnout, so I'll let everybody know.
Great.
Thank you.
I have a question to the three of you. I caught short on TV one day last week, some guy talking, and he was addressing the problems with the young males. And the issue was that he was raising is that if you look at all the data, declining number of males, salutatorians, valedictorians, all that stuff all across the country, poor scoring of males in school. His challenge was that we as an education in the world needs to re-examine the whole way that we teach boys in school. Is that just one person out there, or are you hearing more of that discussion? Because back in the late 90s, I forget her name, she was a writer, philosopher, and she wrote a book about the feminization of American man, kind of carrying on the same thing of the men, the boys of the future are going to be in trouble because we don't allow them to act like boys. We coddle them and keep them from danger and stuff like that, like, swings go away and, jungle. But this brought, so but I heard this one guy on TV, and he was an educator from someplace, I don't know what school, but it made a lot of sense. I'm just saying, is that being discussed? Is that fallacy, or is that other educators are starting to say, looking at the data across the country, we need to look up a different way to teach boys than we do girls? Or is that fiction?
I don't know that I would say that it's not something that potentially is out there, but it's certainly not something that's at the forefront of things that I'm reading or current topics. It's not something that's a pressing issue. Now, it could be something that is being introduced. More people will start picking up on it, but currently there just isn't a lot of things that I'm seeing in that particular topic.
So the data out there, though, about boys, results of boys knowledge is that's accurate, though.
It may be. It may be. I mean, like I said, I just haven't seen a lot on that particular topic.
It just caught my eye.
I just feel like the way instruction has evolved to where it used to be, where, we always sat in desks were always in rows. Those are, to the book you're referencing, was mentioning that is not how boys can function in that type of environment. But, you walk around in our classrooms, the kids are collaborating, they're moving around, our teachers are pretty dynamic. I mean, I've been fortunate to be floating around quite a bit at the beginning of this year. And, kids are constantly getting an opportunity to talk with each other, and the whole group stand up, sit down. I mean, they're moving around. I think it's a different educational environment than when that resource was printed, but that's just my opinion.
Does anyone have questions for the athletic director's report or his report and not moving forward? If there none, we'll go to the superintendent's report.
So I gave you an update on the bid days, last day of August for snow plowing, lawn mowing, and propane. Rusty Acres will do the snow plowing this winter. Rusty Acres is currently doing the lawn mowing for 2023, but next year will be precision property, and the propane will be Milton gas. And then I included the top 5 and bottom 5 scores from our survey with school perceptions, and on the bottom 5, the admin team were working with this. Mr. Hilton and Mr. Schaefer are meeting with their staff on the 2 items that are concerning with discipline, and we're working on that. And that's where we're going to keep plugging away at those.
Questions for Mr. Lippy? One of the bottom 5 ratings on that survey from school perceptions is the school board doing all it can to make Sevastopol successful. So what I'm going to suggest before we leave tonight is to start looking at that, schedule a meeting for into next month, start maybe talking to the staff a little bit. What are their thoughts on that? Let's start. You all heard the news reports and online about the U.S. News and World Report document that all of the county schools did so well in the World Report. And I've always been a little dubious about that because you don't know what criteria they're using, and the state report card in Wisconsin is really the measure for schools. And if a school rates, everybody rated really well and they're a little high, they should use it because perception is reality, right? But if you didn't read it, Mr. Lutke said ranking lists can be good for public perception. However, much more, I want to make sure our students are successful and growing from year to year. And if that is happening, that means the world to me. Actually, that was Herbie that said that. That was you.
Oh, he said it sounded good though. I agree with that.
I missed yours, which is true. And Mr. Lutke didn't go after the competition. He said we try to cooperate with the other school districts, so that's good. But there are other factors. Who's made a big deal out of it? It's okay, but not such a big deal.
But if you don't take credit for it, nobody else will give you credit for it. So I say, you strike while the iron's hot. Whether it's credible or not credible, it's a national source telling you this, and they're not telling you you're in the bottom 5%, they're telling you you're top 5, not 10%, and all that stuff. So,
The article focused on the 4 here in the county, and we were 3rd out of 4, so I said I'll stick our kids against it.
There was an article where we were rated in reading. Our reading and math scores, one was in the top 5% of the country, the other one was the top 10% of the country. I thought that was pretty credible.
And our senior class of 35 kids has 6 kids who got 30 or better in their ACT. 2 of those 35 are foreign exchange students who didn't take those
So take credit for it, because if you don't give yourself credit for it, nobody else is going to get it.
That's right. So our kids stand stackable with anybody.
We should be really proud of it. I mean, it's a reflection of what the whole system here is doing. If it was the other way, and we were in the bottom 5%, you'd bet that the lights would be full of people saying, what's going on here, you know? Okay, so, congratulations.
It's funny.
So the athletic committee, August 15th, do you have something to report, or will that be an agenda matter?
Probably agenda, any discussion. That was just,
The anniversary committee, the August 23rd meeting was really to wrap up details for that Labor Day kickoff event. And on September 14th, we started to think about other things we can do throughout the year to commemorate 100 years. So I need to get with Linda Wade, but I think on August 18th, we're going to have a panel here of some graduates from the 50s, 60s, 40s, 50s, 60s, maybe 70s, and just talk to them about their experiences, which are going to be different from decade to decade, and invite other people to join in. And we really don't have anything else real firmed up yet.
No, 1 month at a time.
To me, you should, again, without saying, I congratulate you and your group. I thought the Labor Day thing was very, very nicely done. It was much more attended than I ever thought. When I said to her, he said, we're going to go to this. She says, on Labor Day? Who's going to show up on Labor Day? Well, the parking lot was full. Everybody, it was well organized. The kids were involved in it. I think it was, I give you and your committee.
It was good. The maintenance staff got everything set up out there perfectly.
And the weather cooperated.
The band came and played. Mr. Schaefer had taken charge of volunteers for the concession area, and that was, it was all, and the food was all gone by the time I got there.
Just give it take people their memories.
Yeah.
And you got like 20-some people that gave their memories of what school was like when they were in school and something. It was just interesting.
And the maintenance, there were 2 maintenance people here that morning, and they worked really hard getting things together. And we had bees at the root beer station. and they brought in these big fans and blew them all the way, so it was good.
So you should congratulate yourself, thank yourself. All those of you guys are involved in it.
So
It was
everybody,
well done.
it was a good day. Communication committee, I guess we have a newspaper coming out.
Yeah, this newsletter will come out in October.
And I don't think they're working on anything else right now, but that newspaper is always a big task to get all those articles in and the editors to edit and get it to the Peninsula House. Budget report?
Mike Clark gave you like the main Carl, I'm gonna turn over to you.
What are we turning over to me?
What?
What are we talking about?
The budget report. Anything you want to highlight for the month compared to Mike Clark?
No, the biggest highlight is what you're going to approve tonight, that we're going to save the district basically almost 1.7 million, and to say that that's not done yet. That's just the money that we have in there now. We still plan to levy more this year because, A, we can to keep the mill rate steady. So that, what you see, that the sheet that he gave you, that is going to go down more yet. So we probably take off before we're done 2037 and part of 2036. So we're going to be saving
We're
over
going to collect the same amount of taxes, but the mill rate's going to drop with our property value. We're up by that 12-13%.
Right now, we're still tweaking the budget itself, cutting here, adding there, things like that. The next month, that'll come to you all, and then we also have the annual meeting coming up, the fourth Tuesday. I believe it's the 26th of October.
26th of October?
I think it's the fourth Tuesday.
24th.
24th.
Tuesday the 24th.
24th of October here. And so we, approve the budget, that'll go to the voters. We'll have what our tax levy will be at that point in time, and we'll operate from there. We've had to make some cuts already just because the inflation cost in that, and they're hard cuts. We've been able to keep staff, but there's other places we've had to cut, projects we've had to cut, and things like that. So we're working our way through it. Other than that, there's all the money that we had out there that we had received. We've gotten all the cash, so you should have received, I think our checkbook right now for Fund 10 is about 3.5 million, which will get us to the end of the year when we start collecting taxes again. So financially, we're pretty decent. The audit went well. They were only here 3 days instead of 4. That's a good thing.
That's really good.
Yes. A few things that we still need to finish up in that. I'm trying to get accounts taken care of through DPI because everything is reported through DPI online now. So I'm cleaning up a few things with that, but that should be finished up this week. And then student counts and all that for the tax levy. So, a lot of things going on right now.
Does that mean like a interview at
6:30 is the meeting starts.
Any questions on the budget? There are none, then we'll go on to the facilities report.
The BC has been acting up, but it's been better the last week and a half. Some days the communication switch doesn't talk to each other. So it looks like it's running, but it's not. But we're working on that. And the working light, there was such a problem with the highway last year. It's been working since day one of the school year this year, so that's good. We haven't heard back from the sign company yet, who's working with WPS and when we call the Everett Roberts sign go in. They're coordinating those efforts between those two right now. We're going to do a cleanup hour over at Eco Lab with the staff on Monday when they're committing. Dick's going to do his tractor. And Dick keeps spreading wood chips all back too. So it's,
Yeah, we get a trail span, but what's the long-term plan for that?
We just keep testing it and running it. It's got to pass the test. Since it's one of well water, you have to pass the DNR test. And so I don't know what the answer is, but we keep running it and testing it and trying that. The well at the concession stand, it has to pass the test in order to drink it. And it's been undrinkable the last couple of tests. So.
Do they chlorinate?
No.
Well, it's just well, where it's
It's
right
well
out
water.
there, so that would be something to add.
It's supposed to be potable water. Potable water, I mean.
Right, it has to pass the test in order to be drinkable. Drinkability.
Well, was there, Scott, how deep a well did it go? You wouldn't have that memorized.
I don't know what it is.
I looked it up the other day, but I forgot what it was. It's pretty deep. It's close, honestly, it was like 400 feet.
I know we have 3 wells here, I don't know how deep each.
It's not a surface well.
No.
I thought we were past
Right, so that was a new well with the,
Right.
when we did the.
There are 2 wells for this building, and 1 for the concession stand.
Okay.
And we pump a lot of water with irrigating the football field all the time, so it's not like it's sat quiet all summer, though, so we only use the concession stand now for ball games. That water was pumping on that football field 5 or 6 days a week.
Okay.
So, you know. Shocking.
That's what I asked, when you get when we have the real estate and well test, they chlorinate the well. They dump bleach in it, and it sits for a while, then they run it off.
And I know Peggy Bagnall is certified to test water. She has to take a test in order to do that. You don't want that?
Yeah.
I'll find out about that.
I mean, we're functional, things are moving forward, just curious.
So the board goals will focus on that rating from the survey unless somebody else has something they want the board to focus on, along with those items that the administrative team is looking at. The rating will be our focus for now. Mark Kane wanted to speak on the Town of Sevastopol Memorandum of Agreement.
Do I talk first
Yep.
or let you guys go, or?
Nope, you should speak now.
Okay, I'm here just to show my support for it. As we know, we haven't met yet. We have 7 people on our committee. With 4 of them have kids, you guys all have kids, it's kind of tough. I think what we need to do is next year, let's set the first Wednesday of the month of September or August. Let's get a date, let's get there, let's hash it out. So we all know when it is, like 9 months in advance, right? Let's get it set. So for the rest of the board, just a couple items. Close to 80% of the games played at our park are school games or Mighty Pioneer school-funded, school-supported games. So the $10,000, goes to a good cause. It goes to mostly the school activities. Okay. We have, for example, when Mitch Anderson comes and does a lot of specialty type things that our employees and your employees cannot do. There are years where his budget, what he does over there, takes up nearly 50% of that $10,000. So just giving you guys know where it goes. We're giving you the rest of the board a little heads up where some of this money is going. Well, more games. I mean, you guys play a ton of games there, which is awesome. Believe me, that's what we want, right? We want the partnership. We want all that. More games means more bathroom products. Means more chalk on the fields, more paint, more lights at night. You know, all that stuff. That's what it all encompasses. And obviously, you guys know what goes on over there. I hope you know what goes on over there. Please come over and enjoy it. There's nothing cooler than watching a 4- and 5-year-old run around chasing the ball. I mean, it's awesome. It's, for us, it's not just the financial aspect of this partnership, it's the partnership with the community and working together and keeping it going. I think that's about all. Well, we got a lot, we have a lot of projects coming up, and we want to get those all kind of put together and get a plan. For us, we need to see all these bids kind of go through it. You guys do the same way. You got to go through, and so at the end of the day, we're not left with holding the bag, finishing up the projects, or cleaning up after the projects, or just continuing the projects. We need to all sit down and hash it all out and get our fingers wrapped around it.
So Mark, do you have any dates that the committee can meet with your committee?
Well, we tried, Brooke and I have been trying again, trying to do, our committee cannot do weekends. We just, with the kids and sports and everything else, and you guys have the kids in sports, and we have not been able to get one together yet. We've been trying, Brooke and I have been
It might
texting.
not be possible to get everyone together, but the majority
I think
maybe?
the majority.
Well, that's what we're trying to get the majority. You know, like, we thought this next Wednesday, a week from today, was gonna work, and we have death on our side, and, you know, 2 or 3 on your side couldn't make it. So we're trying to get a majority of both committees together, obviously. It's not the easiest task. So that's why I say, for sure, next year, I'd like to get a date set, but yes, we're working on getting, we wanna get this resolved, get together on it.
Mark, do you know what the total budget is for town park?
I was gonna ask Amy that today, the number, I didn't bring it with me, no, I do not, sorry.
One correction to Mark's statement, the Mighty Pioneers are self-funded, they are not school-funded. We like to support them as much as we can, but they are basically self-funded. So their participation is their participation
Yeah.
over there.
They pay separately?
No.
I don't know what they pay, but they are not funded by the school.
With that contract, it was kind of all-encompassing with both entities, with the Mighty Pioneers and the school support.
Yeah, but we can't continue to do that though. Because
They-
they're,
If the Mighty Pioneers are not part of the school.
No, this is all vetted, we can bring the town agreement. Before the schools, the past town agreement came to the school board, the future town agreement will come to the school board. So, and we're following, we're aware of all the rules, so we'll revisit that. If that's an issue, it needs to be brought up before we sign the next meeting, that we haven't had the meeting yet. And I think we have a pretty active group supporting it, so that's something that
So
needs to
this
be
document
clarified.
isn't for approval tonight, there's some work to be done on it yet?
We paid our 2023 bill for the spring. Now we're looking at the agreement for 2024. Our committee hasn't been able to get together with their committee to work on it. And so it'll stay on the agenda as old business until we get it hammered out.
We were not going to make a final recommendation last time we were tracking, because we haven't had a meeting yet.
But
It's
we
just
can't
a
get a
kind
meeting
of.
date.
Okay.
I think that was the goal of the committee, is to meet before the,
Well, right.
And it'll stay on old business until we get it done.
Yep.
Okay.
unfortunately, it works.
Okay, so no action there. Thank you for your comments, Mr. Hain.
Well,
Any other
well as
questions?
347 feet.
Thank you, sir.
Just to clarify.
That's key.
Great.
Did you measure that while we were talking about this?
He knows how to find that stuff, I guess. Did you have anything out of your report that you needed to highlight, Sue?
Just to say that I did receive an email indicating that the Joint Finance Committee objection has been withdrawn. I did reference that in the report. And this is in regard to the private school-related costs. It appears now that they have withdrawn their objection, that this will be included in the data portal that is being developed by the Department of Public Instruction, and that process should continue. There was a great deal of concern in the education community about a lack of transparency by not letting taxpayers know where their tax dollars are going in reference to private schools. So evidently that objection has been withdrawn, and we will see where it goes.
Okay, thank you. We have 3 resignations, so we'll look for motions on those individually.
Move to approve Sandy Beauchamp, bus driver resignation.
Second?
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next.
Motion to approve the resignation of Jim Swassel as a varsity baseball coach. Second.
Question or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Move to approve the resignation of Elijah Reimer, assistant varsity baseball coach.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Then we have the morning weight room supervision proposal. We'll trade that up.
Well, you have the proposal in front of you is to have the weight room open 4 mornings a week. 2 would be by our trainer for free, and then 2 we have to pay a supervisor, which in the middle, 2/3 way down is the 4th column. Maybe an extra additional cost of $2,904.90, not counting WRS and FICA. If you go up above to the top third, you can see what we've paid so far. When we pay for after school and summertime, we're already spending $6,820.70. So you add the 2 together and you spend over $10,000 to have the weight room open all year round. And I think it says in here right now, there's currently 12 students signed up for morning weight room use. It doesn't mean they all come every 4 mornings, but there's 12 signed up. And they reevaluate at the end of each sports season to see who would come for the winter and then spring.
Would it at least be to entertain the free, the 2 days, like, that coverage for free?
Yeah, that'd be the first column, right? And that'd be no additional cost. We also do offer 3 weightlifting classes during the school day.
So just for this discussion, what we're talking about, I believe, the summer work is already, that stuff you're doing already. So we're not
The
changing
summer and
that.
after school are exactly.
The discussion on the
as
table
practice.
is adding it during the school year.
Right.
And the current recommendation is the option 4 for the $2,904.90. That's what we're talking about, not $10,000. Just for this discussion.
Right,
and
this is the
decision
document
making.
and this is taken together showing the whole weightlifting.
And so depending on, well, I guess what questions you have or how much data you want. I mean, when we were preparing this, the athletic committee, we had, I was happily surprised. We had a lot of coaches and trainers showed up. There's a lot of discussion. There's a lot of concern about athletes in season, and I think that's where the trainers are helping with the routine, the activity an athlete would be doing in season is going to be different than when they're out of season. So I think some coaches, depending on, as long as they understood that, then it makes sense. Because in fact, the trainers would argue that keeping our kids more active is actually an injury preventative step. Some other random points are, this goes back to even the CFAC. I'll bring up the CFAC and that participation. All the community agreed that part of the strategic plan was to get the community to use the weight room. Now, we didn't go for that big program, but the incentive is we should be getting more people to use the facility that this taxpayer is paying for. So for me, we have this weight room and it's in the heart of our school, so I get that. So I think that this is based on our facility. This is what we need to do to allow people to have access to it, because we don't have fobs and stuff like that that other schools have. That way you can come and go as you want. So I'm just saying, I think I really recommend this. I think it's good. Now, the key thing that Kyle mentioned is this is going to be monitored on a regular basis. And if people stop coming or don't go to it, then we would quickly revisit that, because this group can change the decision as quick as they support anything. So I think I'm just kind of suggesting there's been a lot of discussion on it. And I think I'm just here recommending that we support it. I would say we support number 4 right now, because I think that's reasonable for the activity, and then we can follow to see if people are going, what's being done, are they following the rules, because there's been, you can see there's a lot of rules that are in place that were established, and that was part of the thing that Kyle pointed out. We need to follow the process, and that was a valid point that I took from him at our last meeting, and so that's kind of been better fleshed out, I think. So that's.
Did the committee set like a number of how many kids it's worth having it open for, or when not to? Like, say fall sports gets done and winter starts up and there's only 5. Is that enough to open it up, or where's the line to say it's worth having or not having?
I don't know
where that line is. Right, so how do you figure it out? So if there's not a minimum, how do we know when to open it up or not? You know what I mean?
especially if you have paid staff that are going to be scheduled to be there, and you only have 1 or 2 students.
Because that's not something I see in this document that says, well, currently we have 12.
Well, it says you need 10 signed up per season.
10 is 10 what the committee thinks is
I would
right
say,
then?
well, to Keith's point, and I don't think that's been solidified, but I think there are a lot of things that are less defined in this entire school process. So if we want to take an action, revisit that, there's been things stuck. In here it says 10, I've heard the number of 6, but to say it was been fully vetted by that community, but I think that's, or that committee, but I think that's a reasonable discussion. And I'm a believer in my life, build it and they will come. And what I mean by that, if you set up an opportunity in a program, kids start going to it. They got to see it work. And they got to go with a friend, and somebody else picks them up in the morning. And I have people right now that are carpooling to get to the gym. And I think that's a good thing. And the more we do that, we'll see, right? It's all, proof is in the pudding, right? So let's see what happens. So if we need to come back to the committee, we can talk about that, right?
And I think if it's pretty easily, if you get under 10 or 5 or whatever, you can just use the Monday, Wednesdays where it's free. Right.
So would you guys be against running this so the first of the year, they come back to us with a report, and we decide if it's being used or not?
During the natural break in between when fall sports ends and winter sports pick up, which is like November.
This is also something that needs to be well vetted, because you can't give it to the kids and then take it away. You need to make sure that it's right. I asked some questions. I asked, is this a program? Is this just kids going to the ring and messing around, or is there a program that they're following for improvement? And I understand that there's going to be a program that they're following for improvement.
There is. I mean, Jordan's our athletic trainer.
That morning weight room allows them to go into the gym and do agility training, which they can't do after school because there are practices in the gym.
Right, we have a few weeks where there's morning practices, but they'll figure it out.
And by the way, it's not a weightlifting program.
It's a fitness program.
It's a fitness, agility, stretching program, because depending on your skill and your interest and your time in your season, maybe you're not lifting weights, maybe you're working on quick full.
It's supposed to be a change. It's supposed to be, I understand, changing the culture of how our students look at their fitness.
I would define it more as
athletics in particular.
a sports program.
They came up with a name, that's what I was looking for.
So it all sounds great. My concern is the additional money, because as Carl said, we've had to make, $2,900 doesn't sound like very much money, but we've had to make cuts other places, so that's my concern. We've made, is this a more important thing to keep in place than something we've already had to cut?
That would be a good discussion to review all the areas and then start prioritizing. That's a budget discussion, which wasn't presented here. So if we want to, that should be something we should start doing. I'm not sure we're prepared to do that, but let's have a budget meeting and then we'll look at everywhere we're cutting. I would fully support prioritizing all the areas of the budget, and everyone can start to weigh in on that. We don't typically do that at the school board. I would love to do that. But careful what we ask for. Right, I'm sorry.
Again, it doesn't sound like a lot of money, but to the people whose programs were cut, it's a lot of money. So maybe that's something we do need to look at in the, we're not prepared to do it tonight, but in the future.
But it's $2,900, right? That's for your start cost, $2,900 for what period of time?
For the whole school year.
For the whole school year. So
less than $3,000.
I know, so why don't you start it now? And at the end of the school year, give us a report back.
Move to approve option number 4 to open Monday and Wednesday with a volunteer, Tuesday, Thursday paid at a cost of $2,904.90 for the school year. That's already in our plan, but there will be continued monitoring of us and feedback to the school board as needed for changes.
Would you put in your motion that in May or June or July sometime next year to come back and tell us how well it's
Yes, that's what I just kind of tried to say. We'll give you feedback, but I accept your wording, however you want to put that in there.
So that
He said May. Kyle said sooner. I expect this is going to be regular tracking. We should be able to give feedback back. This isn't we're not committing for 9 months, even in May. If no one shows up in November, December, well then let's not stop wasting people's time.
Right.
But let's give it a shot and encourage people and students. And sometimes we have to communicate to students that if you're not using this opportunity, that opportunity may go away with you. So at least we do that communication. And I do know that the coaches that have been coming to the meeting and the trainers that have been there are talking to all the athletes. Remember, our trainer talks to all the athletes all year round at all the games. So I think some communication is out there helping the process.
And are you including a minimum participation for it to continue?
I do not.
Carl, what is the motion that you have?
A motion by Mr. Kakmarinski to accept the proposal of the morning weight room supervision as presented in option number 4 with regular feedback from the committee in attendance. Or on attendance, excuse me, on attendance.
I'll second that.
Additional discussion, questions?
I guess I would like to see some minimum. I mean, if 2 kids show up, are we going to run it for 2 kids?
Well, the document in front says that 10 listed, but I don't know if we've said that might not be the number, so the athletic committee should come up with that number, or where they're comfortable.
Now, you're saying minimum of 10.
That's what it says under the evaluation, need
But I didn't
10.
hear that from you, Dave.
Right.
Well, this is a plan that we're proposing this plan. So isn't this whole plan admitted and tied to
Okay.
recommendation?
But yeah, you got to pick one if you pick the.
And I think I can
four.
Okay.
I mean, it's a whole
Yeah.
structure.
Okay, I just
think
wanted to
that's
be
how-
clear on that. Thank you.
And with that, there will be evaluation.
But I agree, you can't do it like only 2 show up one day, you can't say, we're not doing it today. You're gonna hold your nose, jump into it and see what happens.
And hopefully 10 show up the next week. I mean, I think that-
Well, there's 12 kids signed up already, so
And this is,
we're not
this is
talking
not
about
just,
2 or 3.
Right.
and just not athletes are encouraged to
No, that's why the group that was involved, I'm not a name the baby type of person, and that's why they're changing it from a weightlifting program to, I mean, anyone from our school district.
I think anyone that would maybe want to benefit from exercise or being
I
in
hope
gym.
the advantage before school is
You
that
can go
usually
to it.
student athletes have a practice after school. The weight room's open after school for any kid, and those kids are the ones who don't have practice usually go there.
I think we should really encourage our kids to do this, because if you look at the shape of young kids that are walking down 3rd Avenue, they are going to be a boom for orthopods in the next decade.
I think there are other districts out there, like one, for instance, they have a beautiful gym and it's
Oh my
open to the
God.
public.
They
It's
have
ready
bad
to come
gyms.
in. We don't have that benefit of
Bad
having
gyms.
an access way that we.
They don't have 3 flights of stairs to walk up and down anymore.
Um,
We took their exercise away from them.
Well, okay.
All right.
Any other questions or discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We then have the resolution authorizing the transfer of funds, the establishment of an escrow account with respect to and the defeasance of certain of the general obligation refunding bonds dated March 20th, 2019.
That was told to us earlier.
Move to approve the resolution authorizing the transfer of funds, the establishment of an escrow account with respect to and the defeasance of certain of the general obligation refunding bonds dated March 20, 2019.
Second.
Questions or discussion? I will take a roll call vote on that. Keith?
Aye.
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 Aye. Motion carried unanimously. Oh, yeah, the policies. Any comments from the policy committee?
Would you like us to go through each one of these individually?
No, I had to get new glasses.
That was what I was saying.
I guess we can take these all as one. There's nothing new here, so we can take them as one block.
I would move to approve the policy committee recommendations of revised policies as listed.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
There was a discussion.
Yeah, I think for the moment.
I signed up for discussion.
Pardon?
I
See, there was discussion, I signed up for.
Carl? Were you talking on here?
Just a couple of things. I'm assuming that it's elementary and high school when there's duplicates like prohibition against disability, there's 2 or 3 of those. Criminal history record, is that per
Specific questions?
Well, one is for teaching staff, the other one is for support staff. You have to do 2 separate ones, one for teaching staff, one for support staff.
There's a couple in here that I was just wondering about, because you have policy recommendations and revisions, and I didn't know if, I should have checked it out before, but I didn't. Like 3121, criminal history record check employee, has that been changed? Or is that a yearly thing for staff and for subs?
When we get a new employee or a new substitute, then they have a background check.
Yes.
We've been doing that for years, right? What happens is Neola is the company that handles the policies for us, and if they do any updates to the language, then we have to accept the change in the policy, so we have to approve it here.
And as far as background checks for teachers, every time, they have lifetime license, but every 5 years they have to have a background check done, as do substitutes to renew their license, they have to have a background check done through DBI.
I would just feel more comfortable if it was more than just every 5 years or every 3 years, where I come in and sub. And if you do it every 3 years, there's a lot in between. I don't feel comfortable with that policy with our children. Another one is the 5517, the student anti-harassment. It comes real close to the student suicide prevention, and since COVID, the youth have been highly prone to harassment and suicide. And is it the same policy that you have had in the past on both of those? The anti-harassment, I would assume it's another word for bullying. Has that been changed, or is it the same as it's been in the past?
We, in about 2007 or 2008, prior to that, the school wrote its own policies, and they were in a binder, and City Vista would have to update the policies, and everybody would have to stick it in the binder. And in about 2007-8, the school district went with Neola, which is a legal firm, and we adopted their policy manual, and they write all of the policies based on legal precedent. Is that correct, Sue?
Yes, they're all reviewed by attorneys in the state of Wisconsin, so all of them are consistent with the laws for the state for public schools.
So they recommend, based on legal precedent, based on best practice, our updates, which are frequent.
And these policies aren't just for us. These policies are the same policies in several schools throughout the state.
Yes, actually nationwide, but the people who review, the attorneys who review the policies for Wisconsin are Wisconsin attorneys.
We have national lawyers and Wisconsin lawyers, and it's mainly a Midwest company.
So we trust their expertise, so don't write our own policies anymore, and generally take their recommendations. Oftentimes we have, within their recommendations, we can choose number A, B, or C, and then our policy committee looks at that and chooses the best option for Sevastopol.
Right now, Jerry and Sue and I, and then Chris Moe serves as the secretary on there, we meet with a Neola representative before it even gets on the court agenda the first time.
Some of the changes are, I mean, as you read through it, it's just keeping up with the change in the law.
Right.
That there's many changes, or some of it's just as simple as a...
Sometimes they'll go Board of Education, and they'll just call it the board the next time through. Or it might be he to he, she.
What I would add is, as an example, talking about.
Harassment?
Well, the comment I was going to give on this is supporting all these comments, but you know, a lot of times the policy is at a high level giving the guidance, and you brought up the harassment and again, right, and the bullying. And I think what's more important to me is the execution and the briefing we got today, and the thing that this administrative team has been working on for quite some time now is our culture and our place, which is part of that is affecting harassment and bullying. So I think we can sit and focus on the work. If you read all those policies, and you said you didn't, if you go read all the changes, many of them are, when you read them, they're wording changes, driven by legality. And then once you read, that's why a lot of time, we used to read them all, by the way, and that's why we've gone to these group approvals, and we have a committee, which is awesome, by the way. Because, and then what the committee will help with, if it's a significant change, then the committee helps us to understand that. So I kind of like to think some of this is a matter of routine and protocol, but if you have a real concern, especially since you mentioned it, I'd listen to what that gentleman over there is saying on what the school is doing and how our principals are doing it. And for me personally, I'm very proud of what they're doing on that specific topic that you brought up. Every community has work to do.
The implementing is exactly what I was talking about.
And that's why I think policy is important, but the implementation is what matters to the kids on a daily basis, and that's why I like to focus on most.
And the truth is, we have 600 kids. There's going to be issues and problems.
Oh, of course. Oh,
yeah. We're a society.
And if no policy removes that, but I thank you. So you're tracking. It's just the implementation is as important as what the policy says, and unless there's a significant thing, and then we usually focus on that a little bit.
And Carl, does it cost extra money to have yearly background check?
It's going to cost the district additional money, yes, because every time we do a background check, we get charged for it. And when someone renews their license with DPI, that is part of their re-registration, so they pay that fee on their own. The district does not pick up that fee.
Volunteers have to be checked every other year, correct?
I believe so. I'm not 100% accurate on that.
Did that generally answer your questions, Mary Ellen?
Yeah, I just...
If you have further concerns about the background check, chat with Mr. Litkey about it. And anytime you have questions about any policies, feel free to ask.
Of all that stuff.
Feel free to ask us about them, and
yeah, I'm excited someone asked about policies.
if we have a little notice, we can do a little better job of explaining.
Usually it's just us.
Yeah, I'll just add too, the access to the policies is on the webpage as well, so you have access to that, and I'd be happy to show you where they are.
Good point. Did we have a vote on that, Carl?
We didn't have a vote. We had a motion and a second. We did not do the vote.
I'm sorry I missed your request to speak, Mary Ellen, but I think we've answered your questions. So then, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. And then that would conclude our regular business. I'll take a motion to convene to executive session.
Move to approve, to go to executive session.
Roll call vote.
Aye.
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 Aye. Motion carried at 8:23 p.m. We are back in session at 8:32 p.m. I'll take a motion on the bus driver position.
I would move to approve the hiring of Glenn Phillips for a bus driver position.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
I make a motion to approve Lisa Goebel for a part-time special education associate position.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Our next regular meeting will be October 18th. And I thought we should schedule a meet and confer meeting into October.
And when we schedule a meeting, for one of the topics should be compensation, because remember last spring how they're concerned about the salary ladder. So we should have on that agenda at least that topic about compensation. So.
See if they come up with that.
October 18th is the next regular meeting.
Yes.
So compensation, I think last spring they suggested a committee.
So we started meeting for and they put together a committee and.
Yeah.
Because they would come, and so I'm just curious on if the admin, if we're briefing the current stuff, or they're gonna come with new ideas and stuff.
Right, we'd say, okay,
That
meet
would be
for one thing is
for-
setting up a compensation committee like you
Yeah,
wanted to, right?
yeah, that's right, yeah. Good.
So, is Wednesday a good day?
That 18th, you mean the same day, same
The
day?
4th, the
Same day as the board meeting or something?
I was asking what you meant.
Usually do it early enough,
We do it
After
like,
school.
like 3:45, right, yeah.
On the
Want to do
18th?
it on October 18th at 3:45?
I can't get TC that day.
Well, and usually meeting before we have 2 or 3 go there, you don't want to have a quorum.
All right.
Right.
That's fine.
And we rotate who goes. So
Go for it.
I'm hearing the 18th.
We rotate, but I really think that when we have these topics, that it's good for as many board members to go as possible and hear directly
We don't
from the
have a
staff.
quorum, though.
Well, if you have a quorum, you can't, you don't agree. We always post our committee meetings. If a quorum's there, though, don't agree to anything because a quorum agreeing means.
And we should
that's
never
our-
agree to
right.
anything in a
Right.
meeting for
Just kind of-
anyone.
Yeah, right.
It's just to gather and talk.
So,
So the 18th.
Kyle, do you feel comfortable with board people discussing compensation with the staff, as opposed to, that's your bailiwick, that you bring it to the board? To me, I feel like I'm going around the administration.
Well, we have a negotiations committee, and I would say if we meet for have compensation on there and say, okay, well, we'll set up negotiation compensation and just have our committee get active, and I'd have it less than the quorum.
Right, I just think that's an issue, that's not a board issue, that's an administrative.
Well, it used to be negotiations old school when there was a meeting, you sat across the table and you argued for things, yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
I got a comment.
Dave?
My comment to that, I believe, is, just Dave Keck's opinion. In our current situation, I think I hope the trust is equal. I feel very trustworthy with our superintendent. I think our communication as a board to our admin team is good. And so what I would say is, when the board is able to listen to the staff and hear what their comments or options are, then really what that means is at the end of the day, we still know the process, the admin team and Kyle come to us. We may ask different questions. We may ask more informed questions. But it still goes back to him to answer our questions now. It's a little more burden on him, but he's accepting of that to this point. So I think it opens up that communication so that we kind of understand what the staff is saying. But we also have to recognize there is a budget limitation so that, and because of the team building that this group has done for what I would say for a while, it's a comfortable environment that if he's comfortable with it, I say that's why I think it's okay, because like Lisa just, we don't really make decisions there, we just want to allow them to hear. And the staff is saying we're not involved enough, so we're trying to get more of that.
Well, and the 5 things are we lowest scored on, whereas staff input and board communication, right? So this would, something would work on 2 of those. We had the 100th anniversary committee, I put my Friday flyer, anyone that wants to serve, come serve. We didn't get any extra people that came, but at least they had the opportunity. This would be another opportunity where they get some input. I plan to do similar with the calendar. I always come up with the calendar because it's what the policy says what we do, but I have no problem listening to them for a little input. The difficulty you have on something like that is she wants spring break, he wants just a long Easter, he wants nothing, and it's done in June, you can't serve everybody, but we can work that out. So I want to give them some opportunities to get some input, and so you got to put yourself out there a little bit. I'm comfortable with that.
Yes, to me, it's a violation of management 101, but.
No, it'll be all right.
Well, there is a general, I think if you read anything, it goes 2 ways. Some people say, oh no, you should not do that at all, you're breaking the chain of command. It should all go through the administration, but these school districts that are smaller are different than Madison, Milwaukee, even Green Bay. there is more communication with the staff, there's more familiarity with the staff. So it's okay to hear, we're not making any decisions, we're not even suggesting anything, we're listening to what they have to say.
I would just offer, because I'm sorry I have to say this because of my background, but a healthy chain of command has open communication, but it respects the chain of command.
Right.
And a good example was our process, and I got ahead of the process when Kyle reminded me of the process, and that's respectful, and I appreciate that, and I learned from that, right? That's a good thing. So I think that's why a healthy chain of command should allow that. And my only personal bias is all the people that say we can't have that communication, they don't want to deal with it. If you ask me. The better leaders will allow the communication because they're okay with sometimes being the bad guy and say that's a great idea, but we just can't do that. And for this reason, we can't afford this, we have to cut off another bus, we couldn't do that. So good leaders have to do that, the homework and education to address those concerns.
I agree with that. I'm just talking about the role of the board.
Yeah.
We're probably getting into more discussion here than is on the agenda.
That's
We're
right.
simply setting a
But it's
date.
the setting the date, yeah.
So we're going with October 18th at 3:45?
What date?
October 18th?
18,
The school board.
3:45.
That work for everybody, most everybody, or anybody else attend?
Well, who's due to go on that, I guess? Yes, of course.
I don't remember who went last spring.
I could do it, I haven't done one for a
Okay.
while.
And more welcome to come, just, yeah, as long as we have a forum, we don't make any decisions. So Sue will officially be there.
I think I could do that. I just won't be at the later meeting. That
Oh, okay. All
But
right.
there's usually 1 hour anyway.
It's usually about an hour, yeah. That should be all right.
I will attempt to be there.
Okay. All right, so we'll have 3 or 4 there. That's good.
Okay then, we'll look for a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We are adjourned at 8:41 PM.